who represent the female side of society at that time. And they're dressed in two distinctly different ways. Three of them are very similar, and you can see they're dressed in their finery, and ladies were ladies of commerce. They didn't clean the house, they managed the commerce, particularly in Spartan society. So we've got on the far right there, or the far left as you can see, a nice Spartan lady there who would be managing not just the household but the business around the household. So she would be commercially aware, the bankers of today if you like. On the other side, on the right as you look at it, on the left as I'm standing, is another lady who's dressed in a completely different way. Number one, she's wearing trousers. Well, if she's wearing trousers, she must be foreign. Only foreigners wear trousers. Real men wear skirts, or women wear nice long frocks, but everybody else wears trousers. And this lady represents a lady from the Scythian nations. And the Scythians fought for the Greeks, and they fought against the Greeks. So you'd see Scythians around the streets of Athens, for example, where they were used as police. Nobody went out at night because they had a habit of taking people's scalps or skinning them, so it made people stay indoors, very effective, didn't need elbows. What they also did is I got it? Yes. What they also did is they fought alongside their men in battle. So when we do our little battle simulation for you a little later on, you'll be able to see women fighting alongside the men. So if I could just dress the ladies down towards me and bring on my Scythio-Persians from the other side.
There come the Persians.
What's coming on now are examples of the type of troops that you would find fighting for Darius on the plains of Marathon. And we have a selection here. Our Scythian has gone to join the Persians, and indeed on the plains of Marathon the Scythians who were assembled there with the Athenian army decided to do exactly the same, because the Scythians fighting for the Persians as well, and they all went to fight with them. So our Scythians going to join them. But in the centre you can see two other troops which are both dressed in what we call median costume, the same sort of costume that I've got on. It's very light, it's very airy, it's very good in hot conditions, but essentially they're pairs of pyjamas. So they don't give an awful lot of protection. So they fight in a way that really accentuates this. They can move very quickly, so they carry light weapons, they're carrying bows, they can shoot from a distance, they're carrying short weapons, maybe axes, short swords, or in some cases daggers, or maybe, axes as well there, I can see. So there'll be a range of different short weapons. They're light troops, they move very quickly. On the right of the line, on my right hand side, the right of the line as you look at it, the one dressed with the very tall hats with the fancy little designs on, that's another example of a Scythian costume. Another Scythian warrior there. Also you'll see, as with our first one, it's another female. Not a problem. About a third of the Scythian fighting force at any time in history was believed to be female. They made no difference between men and women, excuse me folks, and also they were very fierce fighters and gave us what we believe are the legends of the Amazons that we have today. Now what I'm going to do is just dress our Persian-Scythians back over to the corner so I can introduce the main body of troops that would have been fighting on the field of Marathon. These are the hoplites, and at the moment the hoplomachai, the gentleman with the stick, who's training the troops, and the troops would be not professional soldiers. We're in an era where you didn't have standing armies. Every citizen was obliged to prepare themselves for war. They had to buy their own armour, they had to buy their own equipment, and when the state said, we need you to come and fight for us, they had to turn up with that equipment and stand in rank and be prepared to die for their state. So occasionally they had training sessions, and they would bring in professional soldiers to do this. And our professional soldier here has come from the city-state of Sparta. You'll see behind the rank his shield is standing up, and he's got that upside-down V. Well, in the Greek alphabet, that's the letter L for Lacedaemenia, and Lacedaemenia is where the city-state of Sparta is. So he's a professional soldier, and he's been brought in just to drill the troops. What he's going to do now is just dress them forward for me so that I can show you the individual type of equipment they wear, and then he'll do some drill with them and we can see what they do. Hopper, you can just bring the troops forward a little for me, please. Thank you.
It's not sporting, is it?
He'll dress the ranks very quickly. And the command, for those who've heard it, was cosmete, gives us our modern word, cosmetics. He's simply saying dress the rank, and they're all coming together, and it gives you a really good opportunity to look at the shields now. And the shield designs will all mean something. And some of them will dictate a specific city-state. So for example, if you count along the shields, 1, 2, 3, fourth one along, there's a flying pig. The flying pig is a symbol for Zeus, and it's also a symbol that was used quite heavily by the state of Samos. And Samos is in the northern part, is an island off the northern part of Greece. On the right hand of the line, as you're looking at it, you can see that our Hoplomachai has brought with him a fellow compatriot from Sparta. There's a Spartan shield there. And in the middle we have someone who is probably from Boeotia, from the snake, which is the common symbol you'll see on Boeotian shields. Now very quickly I want to bring a couple of troops forward. So I'll bring the Spartan from the rank forward first. And if I could ask him to open his shield so that people can see what he's wearing. Around his body he's wearing a set of armour. That armour is called the linothorax. It's made, as far as we can tell, from layers of linen that are glued together, which doesn't sound very good for armour, but it works exceedingly well. It's the same principle the modern army uses for their tanks, for chopper armour. It's different materials layered together. So that when anything tries to penetrate it, what happens is as it hits a different layer, it moves with a different rate of speed, and it will slow it down automatically. So it's an extremely efficient set of armour, and it's also quite light. Underneath his right arm, if you can hold your spear arm up to me, sir, you'll notice that he's got a few extra bits of scaling. That's the weakest part of the hoplite. That's the area that is not properly defended in. So if hoplites add a bit of armour, they can afford it, remember they've got to pay for their own equipment, they'll add it under that arm. While his arm was in the air, you see he's holding a long spear. This spear is the main weapon of the hoplite. It's not designed for throwing, it's designed for stabbing with. It's got a big counterweight on the back and a very small light head on the front, so that we can hold it to face the enemy, get the enemy as far away from him as possible. Which means that enemy armed with light weapons, swords for example, like the one I'm carrying alongside me here, need to have extremely long arms to reach them, or reach him before he can reach me. On his head, you'll see he's wearing a bronze helmet. In this case, it's a more brassy coloured bronze. The bronze helmets. That particular style is a Corinthian helmet, the common one that I'm sure you'll be familiar with from the movies. It's a late pattern Corinthian helmet. You can tell this because the ears are cut out. All the later versions of helmets have ear holes cut so people can hear. Earlier helmets are very much like buckets, and you'll see from the troops arrayed behind him that one or two people are wearing the older style of helmet. It protects the face very well, but it gives you quite limited visibility. So because of this limited visibility, the hoplites designed a form of warfare which meant that they fought in very tight blocks. So you could feel the person next to you, and all you had to do was walk forward, and it compensated for that limited vision. One final thing, underneath his shield, strapped to his body, he'll be carrying a sword. In this particular case, he's going to draw it for me, he's carrying a coppice. Coppice essentially means chopper. It's a recurved sabre. It's like a very posh axe, very weight and heavy blade. It's designed for commuting in very close and short combat. The Hoplomachai just stepped forward. He's brought out a different short sword, very typical of the Spartans. They carried very short leaf-blade swords. They're short because you can draw them very easily from underneath the sword, underneath the shield if you need to get. If you're carrying a long sword, it's very difficult to draw in combat. If we could dress this gentleman back into the ranks, please. If I could bring the one on the other flank forward, please, with the Gorgon on the shield. Excellent, thank you very much. Now, if this hoplite could just hold his shield open for a second, you'll notice he's also wearing the same type of armour, but I think, yes, he's a little bit poorer. He hasn't been able to afford to put any scales under his right arm. And he's got to pay for it as well. He's also carrying a coppice, I can see, but on his shield, and you can bring your shield forward, sir, you'll notice he's got a Gorgon. We're into the midst of ancient Greece here, and of course we believe if we look at the face of a Gorgon, we're going to turn to stone, and he's hoping that his enemy will do exactly the same when they see the shield. You can dress back into the ranks, please, sir. Right, what we're going to do now is just show you how the hoplites drilled and move. We're going to take them to the back of the field, bring my colleagues on, pick up our bows and see if we can kill any of them. Sorry, knock any of them down. Hoplamakai. Now, as the Hoplamakai marches them away, you'll notice instantly that the line starts to get a bit wobbly. The reason for this is because each of the hoplites can't really see peripherally. They can't see to the side through their helmets. So they're relying on touch and feel, and they'll get in a very shaky line. So they have to practice moving again and again and again. And there you go. As soon as they turn around, the first thing that's been done is that the ranks are being retraced. If I can ask the Hoplamakai to bring them to proptosis and then bring them forward, just so that we can give you an image of how they march when they are facing you, or when you will be facing them as their enemy. So there we go, we've got the shields up above the spears, as the spears up above the shields, so that they've got in their arms here. They've locked the shields in together, and now they're going to move forward.
No, I'll see how I get on with this.
Struggling there, I can see in places to keep the shield level, to keep the ranks together. This is why they practice again and again and again, and why they're more professional men. These are professional soldiers, essentially, that face the Persian army twice its size on the field of Marathon. And we can just do a few very simple drill commands just so the crowd can see how the troops move from side to side. And again, have you heard the command Cosmate, dress the ranks? Panlathete, recover. Epi, Dori, Klinai. Turn towards your Dori, turn towards your spear. It's a good movement, A, for moving the troops around, but also to see clearly who's on each side of them. Turn towards the storm at the front. Again, turn towards the aspis, the shield. Now, many of you will have read books which have said hoplites are called hoplites because they carry hoplons. Well, hoplon essentially means a weapon of war, and the true word for the shield is the aspis.
Yeah, it sounds like a language.
Oh dear, need more practice I think. You'll notice he's carrying a little stick. That's his enthusiastic stick, to make people very enthusiastic. The less he hits them, the more enthusiastic they become, I believe.
Volunteers. Say we volunteer, Eric. He wants them to fight with him.
There you go. He's now going to dress them to the back of the field when he's happy with them, and we'll bring on our colleagues. Now as they're marching away, I'm going to bring my colleagues back on, and let me take you back to the plain of Marathon. Now the plain of Marathon is a very distinctive area. So let's say, for example, that you are the Persian army, lined up on the plain. To your left, where the tents are over there, is the sea. And the stretches along the plain to the other side of the plain, where the road to Athens lies. On your right, where we have the other tents, you have the rising hills and the mountains, not very manoeuvrable for troops. So you want to get off the plain by going that way towards the trees. You have an army that's twice the size of the Greeks standing at the other end. In fact, the Greeks have so few people there to stretch their forces across the whole plain, they have just 8 ranks deep on either side of their line, and 4 ranks deep of people in the centre. That's it. There's nobody else. That's all the troops they have. At this side, we have troops armed like the ones that you can see and myself. Okay, they're dressed in pyjamas, in the most case, but they're carrying bows, they'll be carrying spears, they're all missile weapons. So as Greeks will move across the plain, they can shoot away at them to their heart's content and hopefully kill them all before they get here. So they're going to win, aren't they? Of course they're going to win. Now the Greeks know this, and the Greek style of warfare is that they close on the enemy. They've got to be next to the enemy to kill them. They don't have archers. You'll find that when they move forward, they might have a couple of light troops to protect their flank, which have got a couple of spears, or, in the case of one, the latest in ballistic warfare weaponry, rocks. They're the Persoli, the peasants, they're carrying rocks, so there's 1 or 2 people out there, maybe they've got a few rocks to throw at us. But essentially it's the hoplites. And the hoplites are heavy troops, and as you see, they get in a mess if they move too quickly, so they have to move slowly. But on the plain of Marathon, they decided to do things a little bit differently. They decided that if they were going to stop the Persian army, they've got to cross that broken ground, the ground that the arrows would fall. And they've got to cross it quickly, so they'd run. And they're in a hot day, hotter than it is today, dressed in heavy armour. They'll be very sweaty, I can tell you that. I've done it, I've run in armour, it is very sweaty. But if they can cross the ground quickly enough, they can take very few casualties, and I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you take a car to the top of the hill, you take the handbrake off and you let it roll down, it doesn't just stop when it gets to the bottom, it keeps going. Now, we're not going to run today, health and safety and all that, but we are going to shoot at them, that's the nice bit. So, what we're going to do now is just give you an understanding of the way in which the battle unfurled. And now what I'm going to do is hand over my microphone very briefly, because it's my opportunity to have a play, and I'll come back to you again in a few minutes. Sorry, I've got to stand back over here again, otherwise I've taken the mic with me. Right, we stopped on purpose. Number one, we don't have enough members in the society to keep going, so that's always a very sensible one. Number two, you'll notice that over that short distance we didn't manage to loose off an awful lot of arrows. And we were trying to do it quickly, I have to say, but it's a very short distance, so you can imagine if the troops are running towards you, you're not going to loose off that many aimed arrows, so therefore casualties were pretty light. The car that we've let go at the top of the hill has now reached the bottom of the hill, and what you've got is a car that's a solid line of wood, the shield, it's a solid line of bronze across the helmets, and the legs are pretty well protected as well. You'll see we've got a range of different leg protections there. We've now got a wall of spears, which are sticking out a good 6 foot in front of the troops, aimed at lightly armed troops in pyjamas, carrying weapons, which, if you can just stretch your axes out please, folks. By the way, notice it's the Scythians who are in the front and the Persians are in the back. Stretched out forward, they can't touch them. So of course, they take casualties instantly. The advantage that light troops have is that they can move. What's happening here is the movement ability is being reduced. The only place that these people can go is through the crowd behind them, you folks. And you folks and the rest of the army against some swampland behind you. And the Greeks just plough straight through the ranks. They folded both the flanks, the left flank and the right flank. The centre did hold, it held because the Scythians were fierce fighters and they weren't going to give in. However, once the flanks folded, the rest of the Greek army turned their attention to the middle and finished off the Scythians as well, and that was the end of the first Persian invasion of the Greek. Okay, you can recover please, folks. Now that short demonstration, ladies and gentlemen, just gives you an understanding, a flavour of the ancient Greek world, and that finishes our display today. We have a campsite right at the entrance. I think everybody will have seen this as you came in. If you want to come and examine any of the equipment, to talk to any of the Scythians or Persians or hoplites assembled in front of you, or any of the ladies behind on my left, please come across, you'll be more than welcome. And for now, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you.